When the whole family comes together to watch the game, nobody wants to miss a second of the action to run to the grocery store. With Instacart, you can get all your weekly groceries in as fast as an hour. Less time shopping means more game time. Let's go. Visit instacart.com to get free delivery on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. $10 minimum per order. Additional terms apply.
I haven't got all day.
869-1240.
Time to get busy.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
3 balls, 2 strikes, the pitch. Struck him out, ball game over. Nate Snead throws a 98-mile-an-hour fastball past Cole Johnson, and Wichita State wins this game 1-0. What a ball game here at X Stadium tonight. Nate Snead closes it out with 2 scoreless innings as 6 Shocker pitchers combine on a 5-hit shutout against a very good offensive team. Final score, Shockers 1, Wildcats 0.
And there you go, the Shockers in a bullpen game. Get it done, just 5 hits allowed. Wow, they used 6 pitchers to beat Kansas State in that bullpen game. The RBI delivered by Mauricio Milan, and it's another win, and Wichita State just continues to play really, really good baseball since about April 14th. When they went down and won that Tulane series, they continue to win. They've only lost twice since then. And what are they, like 10-2 over that stretch? The disappointing part, Tommy, as we look at it, Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor, this is Sports Daily, is they only moved up 4 spots in the RPI with that win. Now, Kansas State was getting votes, right, in the top 25, so I really hoped that win might elevate them just a little bit further into the RPI, because Wichita State, who has also been getting some votes into the top 25, is going to probably, amplify that, especially if they have a good series against Houston. And that's tough. I thought it would be more, honestly, than it was in the RPI today as that is released.
Well, this certainly, to me, shows that it's no fluke for Wichita State baseball, right? I mean, they got the win in Manhattan, a few weeks ago, and then they're able to have the rematch against the Wildcats, beat them in a stellar 1-0 game. It's not a fluke, right? The way that Lauren Hibbs has, got these guys to respond and come together this season, it's the real deal. Shocker baseball is the real deal. And I mentioned it yesterday. I thought that there would be growth this season, but I wasn't sure that we would see this amount of success this season from this program. But here we are. And, I want to see them continue. I wish they were getting more love in the RPI. I wish that they were getting more votes in the top 25. I think those things will come as the season continues to roll on, because they still have some opportunities in conference. I don't know how many of those games are really going to be a big boost to the RBI.
Ranked
the
about
RPI,
100. Houston's ranked about 100. So it's not, they need to win that series, and it'd be nice if they could sweep that series for their chances to win the AAC. But I'm with you. I don't know how much help they're going to get. But these midweeks, have been helpful. I thought that one would be more helpful, and it will be if Kansas State finishes strong. Oral Roberts is the last midweek other than the 3 conference series. While we're on the topic, let me just look at South Florida and see where these teams sit, because they play South Florida, UCF, and this Houston, which we just looked at. It'll be UCF is 127, so they're worse than Houston, and South Florida is not even registering in the RPI from what I can tell just yet. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know how much. Yeah, South Florida's down at 163, so they don't have anybody left now that's going to give them much help. Oral Roberts, believe it or not, will be the best team as far as RPI goes. Oral Roberts is 1 spot ahead of them at 82. That's the best game they have left on the schedule. So it's sort of like softball, other than there's just more time for it. I don't know what this is. It's going to be interesting, though, because Wichita State, if they keep winning like this, is going to climb inside the top 25, I think. And to have that much of a discrepancy between that and the RPI, maybe this conversation we'll have with, maybe we'll try and run down Mike Kennedy or get Lauren Hibbs to explain it, or Kevin Saul next week. Like, I don't know as much on that for playoff seeding. But either way, just win, take care of your business. And the other reality is, too, go win the league. Like go win the conference and then see what happens. And they absolutely have a chance to do that as they sit there in first place in the series with Houston means a ton. I was talking yesterday, Tommy, around the office. I don't think we talked about it here. What is it going to take? Like, let's say Wichita State wins all 3 of the series, right, that they have left and go and take each one of those 2-1, and they go 6-3 down the stretch in the league. East Carolina sits 1 game back. Is that going to be enough, do you think, to hold off East Carolina 6-3, even though you win all those series? Do you think it's enough with just 1 game over East Carolina to hold them off?
I don't know if you can go 2-1 in the final 3 series and expect to win the league. I think you need to look at a sweep in at least one of those series. I mean, maybe going, 7-2 in the final 9 conference games, that might get it done. I think you've got a pretty good likelihood to make that happen. So at that point, you're looking at 1 sweep and, 2-1 in the other 2. I think that's conceivable, but I think that you've got to, at the very minimum, win all 3 series to feel more confident about winning the league at that point. I mean, of course, the monkey is on the back of East Carolina, right? They've got to be the ones to try to gain a game. But, that can happen at any time. So I think it's going to be really important for Wichita State to at least try to get 1 sweep out of those final 3 series.
There's a listed attendance last night, and I did not see the crowd of 3,004. But, as far as a list,
it's a really good crowd.
Listed attendance, right? That's good. Let's go back in time and just find another game, and we'll see. Let's go back to how about a Saturday game against Houston? I'm going to randomly pull one of these, and I don't remember what the weather was. Yeah, it was 65 degrees on Sunday. I thought that was a nice day. So another nice day on a Saturday. Listed attendance is 1,732. So that's on a Saturday during nice weather. Now, and granted, it was K-State, and I'm sure there were some K-State.
You're getting
fans
some Wildcat fans in there, yeah, for sure.
But on a Tuesday night, 3,000 people listed. That's impressive. And
it was a really nice evening too. I mean, I think that's part
beautiful.
of it also, And so I'm on board with that for sure. I think the other storyline in this, and I mentioned this on social media last night, and I would love to get your take on it. At what point do you take the interim tag off of Lauren Hibbs? I mean, just with what he's been able to do this season, and I don't know what his intentions are. I don't know if he's comfortable in the role of just being the interim guy this year and then there being a nationwide search. I don't know the answer to that. But at what point, if he wants the job, does Kevin Saul just give him the job? I mean, I think that, there's been the success on the field that I don't know about you, but I mentioned it before. I wasn't sure we would see this level of success this season.
Yeah, this one's a little tricky because we've never really known what the long-term plan was. There was never any indication given on what the long-term plan is. So I'm not sure. I honestly, it's a shot in the dark. Yeah, if they keep this going, if they win the league, if they do all those things, if he wants it, he'll have it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I also think
because we're not talking about a guy that doesn't have the prior experience. We're talking about a guy that's been a long-time head coach in Division I college baseball for forever. So you've got a guy that's got the pedigree, that's got the Shocker ties and all of that. I mean, it was a natural choice for him to be the interim coach this season, no doubt about it. I think it's becoming the natural choice to just let him roll with it long term.
I mean, he spent 27 years at Charlotte and had a pretty impressive record. Won lots of games, made it to the NCAA tournament 5 times, is their all-time winningest coach. He's back here now at his alma mater. But yes, I think that it's an easy sell if he wants it, to the fan base. I think there's not a fan alive that if Wichita State continues to play this way that wouldn't be supportive of that. I don't think. There are probably calls you got to make. You got to call Kevin Hooper. You got to call. That's probably it, honestly. That's probably the short list. But no, I think it's a cool storyline, and we'll see. Lauren Hibbs is no spring chicken. No offense to Lauren Hibbs, but you never know. When we enter these points of our careers and lives, is he rejuvenated? Is this something that he's enjoyed? It sounds like when I listen to him after games and when I listen to him here on his coach's show that he's having a great time. So yeah, I would think that if there's interest both ways, then sure. That just takes that burden off the plate. But the other probably nice thing about this situation is I also would imagine there's not really any pressure to deal with it right now. Like not even a little bit, right? There's not, you're not dealing with, nobody's going to swoop in and take Lauren Hibbs away. I wouldn't think. Again, this is speculative here. I would imagine that he's not putting a ton of pressure on anybody. I think he's probably just enjoying this ride, and I think it translates. And the reason I brought up attendance, and I don't, I think it's always important just to sort of observe those things, right, and wonder, because I have always wondered, what is the appetite still? I've been here since 2014, almost a decade, and Shocker baseball has not ever reached that point, even when they've had some really talented teams, of getting back to the promised land, which is, for somebody that moves here to cover things, like, I would love to see them and chase a College World Series and do those kinds of things. They just haven't been there, and neither have the fans. And so I've always wondered, like, if they can get good again, are all the people who always tell me about the glory days of Wichita State baseball, like, are they coming back? And I think we are starting to see that, and that's good. That's good news for the program, because the facilities there are as good as anybody's. Like, the facilities at Wichita State, I mean, they're unmatched. They're fantastic. So then it becomes, are people willing to come back? And the biggest challenge for Wichita State baseball, in my opinion, as far as that, is the weather's usually pretty crappy until about now, right? Like, usually you're dealing, it's either cold, and we know, like, the shadows at X Stadium, if you're sitting in the shadows, it is cold, man. But that doesn't mean that it can't still become a hot ticket item, which that's what I want to know. Is it going to do that if they keep winning like this?
Well, you mentioned the folks that were around, in droves during the glory days. The only negative part, the only bad thing is, and I mean this with all due respect, I think a good portion of them probably aren't around anymore. It's been a long time, since those glory days. I remember them. I was very, very little when the Shockers won the College World Series. Like, I was a child when they won in '89. So that was a long time ago. Now, of course, they had success, in the '90s and early 2000s and all of that. But you're getting a group of people that, remember those glory days, that are starting to age out a little bit, and people that are around our age, maybe even a little bit older. They don't really remember quite as much of the time when Shocker baseball, was the biggest thing going in town and was dominant. So I think there's going to be a little bit more work there to try to get, the general baseball fan back. But I'm not saying it can't be done. I mean, success, if you build it, they will come, right? From Field of Dreams. Like, when they have that success, people will show up. And so, regardless if they remember,
but I think the risk of that not being the case always exists, and that's. But
I believe, though, that I don't think that you have to rest on the laurels of, you've had all these people coming, 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago to watch Shocker baseball. We think they're going to come back. No, I think that it can be a new era of success and generating new fans that way. So it can be a mix of both, I think. But I'll tell you what, from somebody that I've been around here my entire life. I remember when Shocker baseball was the biggest thing going, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun going to X Stadium and watching, a team that knew, more than likely was going to go deep into the postseason. And it's been a long time since we've had that. And so I'm looking forward to that coming back. I hope it does. I really want that to come back. I really want to see Shocker baseball back at its peak.
Yeah, I do too. It's been one of the things I've desired as just an observer since we've been here, right? Like, the thought of College World Series and all that, you like, heck yeah. And I know how awesome that's going to be. Like, that would be a great thing to pencil in. And softball has taken that, over to some degree, which has been such a blast. But I definitely think you can have both. And it would just serve as this, nice, awesome bridge between basketball season and now what's become the TBT that we look forward to. We didn't even talk about the TBT yesterday. I know we had this on the list. We got to talk about this. Speaking of that, in an immediate left turn, because it just dawned on me, we weren't able to get that in yesterday. The Mass Street team out of KU. Are you kidding me? The Morris twins are going to coach this team?
Yeah.
And Langford and Taylor are on the roster. That's what we know so far. But the Morris twins are going to coach this team?
I think I laughed out loud when I saw that the release come out that, and I don't remember which twin is the head.
They've coached one of these teams too in the past. Our super producer Matt Henderson pointed this out. Like, they coached a TBT team in, like, 2017 or something. It is commitment week apparently in the TBT next week, and so we'll see who they add. But that team coming to Wichita with those guys are going to be. I mean, Keith Langford and Tyshawn Taylor. I'll ask you, Tommy, because that's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Keith Langford and Tyshawn Taylor, that's two names people are going to be pretty excited about.
Well, yeah, that's like the Mount Rushmore, I think, of, at least they're on that list of, most recognizable, impressive former Jayhawks. And so having them, come to town, and I don't know if you heard about this or not. Keith Langford was on a KU podcast, I think, last week. And if you have 30, 40 minutes to spare, check it out. I mean, it was incredible. Talking about his time at KU, he was there when Roy Williams left and Bill Self came in, and there was part of the discussion about he wanted to follow Roy Williams to North Carolina. Roy told him to play a year for Bill Self and see what he thought. I mean, just the conversation, and I've never heard Keith Langford talk about this before. It was awesome. It was just a great conversation. So the fact that he's going to be playing on the KU team, that's really cool. Tyshawn Taylor was incredible also, in his time at KU. I'm looking forward to seeing who else they get on this team. But, man, the initial announcement couldn't be more fun.
And that just will go lockstep. Remember what the Aftershocks, the Shocker alumni team, is trying to do here, and have a 10-year reunion this year of the Final Four team. And, you've got the potential of getting those guys together, not just with Fred VanVleet, who would be the one to add in now that I think everybody would obviously have a big interest in, but they've extended an invitation to Greg Marshall. And I think that that's an opportunity and a really interesting one. I don't know how that will go. I have no idea. But if that were to happen, and you've got this sort of reunion and maybe like a I don't know. Look, the TBT, which is always so awesome, and we love it so much. It's a lot. There's a lot on the table here, and we're not even there yet, and we don't even know who all the teams are that are coming through. And come on, if you get a K-State team mixed in there too again this year, let's go. And K-State's had a team in these things, and man, I'm just telling you, this. That announcement for this Mastery deal, it doesn't even really – is that enough of a headline, Tommy, for KU fans, those two guys? If they just sprinkle in whatever guys, to fill out the roster, or maybe they do have another headline or two. But even if they didn't, are those two at coach, the Morris twins, and Taylor and Langford as players enough, do you think, to have KU fans locked into this tournament this summer at Charles Koch Arena?
No, yes, I think so. Absolutely. And I think that they'll get a couple of other guys that, you're going to know about. You're going to be like, oh, man. So I don't have any concerns there. But even if they don't, I'll tell you as a KU guy myself, I'll be locked into that for sure.
Oh, my God, I cannot wait. And we know now, the Aftershocks are one of the best teams in the tournament because they've had some roster consistency. And, you've got this scenario where, I don't know, I just envision, if those two met up at Charles Koch Arena and you've got the Fran Camp effect and the Fran Camp going up against KU effect, all this stuff, when he's become one of the best players in the tournament every year, I cannot wait for
what do
that.
What do you think the odds are that Marshall makes an appearance?
I don't have a clue. Honestly, no idea.
We say 10 to 1, maybe
now,
20 to 1.
What by appearance do you mean at the festivities to celebrate that Final Four team? I'd say probably pretty decent, but so there was some crossover with some of the controversy there with some of the guys on that roster, with some of the guys that were, so I don't know. Now, do I think he's showing up at Charles Koch Arena to cheer him on? I'm not sure. It's interesting though, because you have a totally different, nobody really there now had anything to do with anything that happened. So it would be an easier time to do it, but there's also still a buyout involved in all this stuff.
It's a completely separate entity from Wichita State Athletics. It's in the same location, right? But TBT is not affiliated with the university.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think there's a loose affiliation, but just in the facility. I think I think there's a moderate chance if they do this celebration away from the university, because the university is not going to have anything to do with that, but it will still have, I believe, right, that the NIL collective will have something to do with it. So I'm not sure. I would say moderate chance to get together with his old team. Anything more than that, I'll watch with interest like everybody else, but it seems maybe still a little too complicated to do that. But I don't know. They've extended the invitation, so that makes it interesting, and we'll of course watch it. And we'll watch Fred VanVleet, and we know that based on history, Fred VanVleet will want to be there. It probably just becomes a consideration of can he get here for that in the summertime. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Some giveaways. We'll make home run picks for a BetMGM promotion that happens on Wednesdays. It's all coming for you on Sports Daily.